French first half of the turn movement is done. Now it's time for the shock phase. Let's see if the gallant Prussian cavalry can successfully beat back the leading ranks of the French dragoons. First to charge home is the Westphalian Landwehr cavalry. See if they can disrupt and shatter and throw back the disordered French dragoons exiting the edge of the woods. Following them will be the regular Prussian dragoons charging home, but they have to get past the fire of that horse battery. The Landwehr cavalry overturned the morale disordered and terrain disordered dragoons because they were on the edge of the woods. So they win their first fight, causing that unit to rout and the surrounding French units to morale test. Everybody passed except for a Leger battalion, who obviously the horses busted their way through, as the routing dragoons stream out of the edge of the woods on the far side. Now it's time for maybe the Prussian dragoons, or we're going to hit the flank of that dragoon regiment, which is exposed. That's what we're going for. We're going to go for the flank. Well, it was 100% to 100% flank, 2 figures on 2, roll to 1. It was an even up fight, both sides morale disordered, and in this case the Prussian cavalry had to retire. So they were led back, but a hard fight, and they did disrupt the French advance. The next fight. Prussian dragoons are thundering home on the French horse battery, which is going to deploy and fire a double canister, and the terrain and morale disordered French dragoons, led by their dragoon commander. Well, that was quick. Horse gun fired its double shot, promptly dropped a Prussian dragoon, caused a morale check. They failed it and went into morale disorder. In the ensuing fight, a scrum between the French horse battery and the French dragoons, both have the same value at the end of the calculations. They successfully beat off the Prussian dragoons with a disorder, and double disorder means, of course, they routed away. So they are routing away. So basically split honors here by the looks of it. Do the firing here to finish up the end of the French half of the 7th turn. French half of the 7th turn is now completed. All the firing across the front basically caused no effect of loss anywhere. So we're going to go on to the Prussian half of the turn and the French rally phase. Prussians have done finishing their movement on the 7th half of their turn, and so it's now time to do French shock combat against the Prussian lines. So, in conclusion of the 7th turn, the French horse artillery battery bumped off one of the skirmishers out front, but they passed their morale. These French columns successfully forced back the Prussian Landwehr militia, and it's now in morale disorder, retiring. The other little fight that was over here, there was exchange of musketry, and the bayonets came in. Both sides lost a figure, but the small Landwehr battalion is now routing, and it's now beside the battery. The big event that happened on this turn is because that the French cavalry had crossed the magical line here, right here, or the last 2 feet with this dragoon regiment. It released automatically the Prussian Reserve Division of cavalry. So 4 more additional cavalry regiments have ridden onto the board. As you can see here, a dragoon regiment, Ulan regiment in skirmishing order, horse battery, and 2 additional Landwehr cavalry regiments of 3 figures each. They are the last reserve to try and stem the French cavalry advance before nightfall. First half of the turn 8 is completed now, including the artillery fire phase. The artillery battery, horse battery here, caused another skirmisher gentlemen to fall to the ground. Consequently, we had a morale check, but they successfully passed with a quick 0. The big news for this turn is the Prussian Infantry Division, 2nd Brigade, is now officially at 40% losses. So it's going to be down 2 on any morale check. Plus, since they are now over their MFP level, it'll be down 1 more. So effectively, they are a -3 army at this point in time. Very brittle, and it will show any morale checks which are forthcoming soon. French left flank. Cavalry's moved to the edge of the woods, getting preparation to try and exit the woods and run for the edge of the board, which is roughly 2 feet away. But this is turn 8. Doesn't give the French many more moves. They've actually got 2 more moves during this scenario. Interesting problem here for the Prussian. This Fusilier battalion is caught basically behind lines. As you see, there's a French skirmisher and cavalry unit in front, and it's being chased by 2 French columns, which if it doesn't move, it's going to be shocked by both of them. So what are its options? Well, here's an innovative action. Declare itself to go into open order, change of formation. You're going to get some opportunity fired upon you because it's a formation change within a minimum fire zone. And then run 10 inches from here, out here, and around here. We're not going through any enemy units. So it's a perfectly valid tactic. See what happens. Well, leaving their former vacant space now, they suffered the fire of the two French columns into a close order column. Luckily missed all those shots, escaped the skirmisher shot from the French cavalry, and ran around and got onto the open road area here in a semi-skirmisher formation with a movement of 10 inches. Pretty nifty, of course. Light infantry in woods is a very effective weapon. The formed units are not very effective. With the Prussian movement done, it's now the French shock phase. And as you can see, the French dragoons originally called the charge, and the Prussian cavalry moving up half speed in the charge zone is now in a position to countercharge, because the French cavalry is going to be in a state of charge within 4 inches. So the two landwehr regiments, which has got the arrows on it, and probably the third one behind by the battery, are probably going to countercharge with the objective of throwing back the French charging dragoons and maybe get a hold of that French horse battery at the same time. Well, that didn't work out too well for the Prussians. The French charging dragoons promptly overthrew one of the landwehr cavalry regiments, sent it skirling to the rear, causing a morale disorder in the process of the other leading landwehr cavalry regiment, which was the Westphalian. They've had some fights already today, so it probably wasn't in their heart. Saw the open and exposed Prussian horse battery, promptly charged home. Horse battery took its morale check, failed, went into disorder. Their canister fire didn't cause any damage, and promptly the dragoons ran it over, in the process losing a figure in the exchange of the melee. Well, to finish up the 8th turn, we had the mutual artillery infantry fire phase. There wasn't much infantry across the board. But to add further insult to injury, the horse battery promptly bumped up one of the landwehr Westphalian cavalrymen, and the other two remaining figures promptly routed to the rear. They pretty much have had it for the day. Turn 9, French movement is done. So that's and before we go on to the artillery and mutual infantry fire phases, the landwehr cavalry, seeing the approaching French dragoons, has opted for an opportunity charge and is countercharging as the horse battery maneuvers into position to get a volley off as they come home. Well, the cannon removed one figure, and the resulting melee result of morale disorder and charging home, the French cavalry just chopped them to bits. All of the miniatures are removed from the table. On the other front, the Prussian cavalry did a preventive cavalry charge declaration at the beginning, so the French cavalry had a hard time getting out of the woods because it was going into a charge zone, half speed. So they formed up a line, and then they countercharged the Prussian dragoons, which are charging home on them. The French chasseurs took the morale check, but rolled the golden 9, which causes a morale disorder, even with their leader being attached to them. So they're going into this fight the wrong way around. The result of the melee is another disorder or disruption on the French cavalry, which turns it into a rout, and they broke through the Uhlans' ranks and are now running towards the rear. Uhlans passed their morale check with a 0. Otherwise, this is the end of the French half of the turn 9. End of turn 9, going on to turn 10, which is the last French turn. During the end of turn 9, the musketry and artillery fire was pretty much ineffective. The only thing that occurred was a small landwehr battalion of Westphalian infantry finally got crushed and run over near the road junction there. So that's 3 more miniatures removed from the table. This is going to be the last French move, and the Prussians are going to do a last moment cavalry charge here to slow anything that's exiting the woods, and that should pretty much end the scenario at that point. We'll see what happens then in this final turn.